Hi, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. I'm Sheila with Totally Gen X, and I want to talk to you about something personal again. I want to talk to you about what it's like living with a hoarder. Now, I can't show you pictures. I'm not going to show you pictures of his room because I think I'd be violating his privacy. Yes, we sleep in two separate rooms, kind of because of the mess, but kind of because we have different schedules. He goes to bed late and sleeps all day. I go to bed early, wake up early. So there's that. And I just felt like when we bought this house and moved in it 2 years ago, um, I just felt like I needed my own personal space. He's a hoarder. And so I'm going to tell you what that's been like. It's been probably the last 4 years. So as long as we've been living with each other, I moved into an apartment near his house, and I knew there was something. I'd seen his backyard. I looked over the fence. There was trash strewn everywhere, and I'd never been in his house. He'd never invited me over. When I'd go pick him up, I'd stay in the car. And so I knew there was something going on. So that's the story I'm going to tell you today. I'm going to tell you the story of my moving in and dealing with the hoard. So I moved in to his house in the spring of 2021. I had been living in an apartment before that by myself, a very small apartment. I had not seen his house before I moved in, and let me explain how that happened. I had known about the hoarding for a few months. Well, it had been confirmed for a few months. We got into a fight when I was driving him home one night, and I just blurted out, "You never even let me in your house. I don't think you're committed to me." And he blurted out, we were both angry. And he said, "That's because it's hoarded," or something to that effect. And I was like, "Did you think I would leave you because you're a hoarder, because you have this problem? This is a problem. It's a hoarding disorder is in the DSM. It's been validated by psychiatrists in the DSM as a disorder. It used to be lumped in with OCD, but they've realized that it's separate things. And I'm not going to get into the whole psychology of it. But so it's really been 3.5, it's not quite 4 years that I've been dealing with it. It's been almost 4 years I've known about it. But he has resisted seeing somebody about it. And don't scratch my arm. So I used to notice when I'd pull up to his house to pick him up, honk the horn, there'd be water coming down the driveway, and I didn't know what that was about. But anyway, I'll get to that point. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me tell the story how I moved in. I was living in my apartment, and I couldn't afford it anymore. My husband couldn't afford the alimony he was paying me anymore. He had lost his job and had found another one. And okay, you have to stay there. So my ex-husband couldn't afford the alimony anymore. And so we talked about it. I would have to move in with him. I just couldn't afford it. I would have to work so many hours of Lyft that we wouldn't see each other, you know. So we had picked a day. I think it was April. I don't remember now, but I was gonna move in. So we picked the weekend. I was gonna pack up. My son was gonna come move everything over there. So I kept saying, hey, let me clean it up before I come. He goes, no, 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 no. I want you to see it when it's done. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And he kept putting me off until it was the weekend. It was the weekend I was moving in. So it was at my apartment, and my son started moving my stuff there. My furniture, my boxes, everything. And I was at the apartment cleaning because every place I've ever rented in my life, I've got my deposit back, you know, and I wanted to get my deposit back again this time. So I didn't see the house till that evening, and my son didn't say anything. It's hard to tell with my son because he doesn't, he's not overt. He didn't say anything, and he generally doesn't. I've talked to him since. He was concerned, but he thought I had seen it, so he thought I knew. When I got to the house, now it's a split level. So when you walk up, you look down, I called it the basement, but it's open. And then when you look up, that's the main level. And I was stunned. Hold on. Sorry, the dog scratched my arm. So I walked in and I was stunned. Now, there was extra stuff there. There was my boxes and my furniture in there. They had taken it wasn't even a bed. He was sleeping on a mattress on the floor, and it was in deplorable condition. And they just kind of stuck everything in that room. I had left Merlin, my cat, at the apartment. I hadn't brought him yet, and I just decided to leave him there. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with him. I couldn't bring him to that house. It was packed to the rafters. It was horrible. He had a path up the stairs. There was stuff lined up on either side of the stairs. There was a path up the stairs. Downstairs was packed. So the steps downstairs, it was packed to about the fourth or fifth step with stuff, the whole downstairs. And upstairs, there was a path that went up the stairs to the left, down the hall, and there was stuff in the hall, but there was a path through the bedroom. They had managed to get my bed in there, get the other bed out, and to the bathroom. The extra bathroom was packed. It was horrible. So by this time it was evening. My son, I just let him go ahead and leave. I mean, what was I going to do? I mean, I didn't have a storage shed. It's not like he could get everything out and put in storage. If I had known, I would never have moved my things in there. But my things were all in there. I'd already ended the lease on my apartment. I had 3 or 4 days left there. And it was done. It was a done deal. Went to bed that night. I mean, what else you gonna do in that house? He didn't have a television. He didn't have internet. It's not like I could hook my television up. There was no room in the living room to sit and watch TV. So on the right was the living room and dining room, and then the kitchen to the left. So went to bed, and I laid there that night, and I could hear the roaches. The cats are playing. I could hear the roaches and the rats in the trash and garbage. I could hear it. He wore earplugs, so he didn't hear. So he didn't hear anything. Piled everywhere. It was in the living room. Well, in the hallway, in the bedroom, it was only piled a foot or two, but in the living room, it was piled 3 feet. And the kitchen, I'll tell you about in a minute. But I couldn't sleep there that night, listening to the roaches and the rats. I just laid there and stared at the ceiling. I just couldn't sleep. So I just got up, put my clothes up. I didn't even wake him. I put on my clothes. I got in my car. I was going to sleep in my car, but my apartment was like 5 minutes away. So I knew I could sleep in my apartment. There was no furniture there. I would have to sleep on the floor, but it was hot. So at least in my apartment, I had air conditioning. So that's the next part I'm going to tell you. So he had not run the air conditioner in 6 or 7 years. So I didn't even know if it worked. So that's one thing I take care of, because this is Atlanta and it is unbearable in the summertime with no air conditioning, you know? And the other thing was he had a massive water leak. So what he would do is go to the road, turn the water on, take a shower, then go out there and turn it off. Meanwhile, the water in the basement, thank God it wasn't on the main floor, but it was in the basement, was spraying water everywhere. And that's why when I'd pull up to pick him up, there was water pouring down the driveway because he had just turned off the water. I can't live like that. I can't go outside, especially in the wintertime. Go outside, turn the water on, and then go back outside after I'm finished showering to turn it off. It's just not a sustainable way to live. But he had been doing it for years. You know, that's something hoarders do. They don't let people in to fix things. So I went back to his place the next day and I told him I can't sleep here till, well, number one, we have to fix the water. Number two, we have to fix the AC. But number three, most importantly of all, I need to bomb this house. I have to get rid of the roaches. Now he's vegetarian. He was opposed to rat traps. Luckily, I have a cat. Merlin took care of that. Not right away, because Merlin did not go there. So the next place I went to my ex-husband's house. And I talked to him about staying on his couch for a few weeks. And Merlin's staying there as well. And my ex-husband absolutely said yes. He's a good guy. So I packed some clothes. I stayed at my ex-husband's house. Now, my ex-husband lives about an hour away. And I would drive to, I'll just refer to him as the cheating husband because that's how y'all know it. I will return to the cheating husband's house every day. And So what I did was start widening the path. I could only do a little bit every day, and that's fine. It was hot, and I would be dripping with sweat. And I had to work. So I would work in the mornings, go there in the afternoons, and widen the path. I had a method. I would just start packing things that I knew we didn't need or use. Trash I would throw in a bag. The problem was his trash can was buried in the basement. So I made him dig his trash can out so I could fill it. And when it was full every day, every week, that's all the trash I could throw away. So, but I started doing that. It took me a while to convince him to let me bomb the house. He went away to his mother's one weekend, and I bombed the house. My son and my ex-husband came and repaired the plumbing, so we could keep the water on. We didn't have to go out there and turn it on and have it spray everywhere. So as you can imagine, everything in the basement was ruined. Everything was a loss. I mean, everything down there, and there was a lot of stuff down there. And so I got an HVAC guy out there. So bombed the house, started on the path, widening it, fixed the HVAC, fixed the plumbing. Okay. So once the air conditioner was fixed, I could work longer days there. So my priority was the bathroom. My number one priority was the room of hygiene. I needed to be able to go in there and take a bath, just relax, just woosah, you know? So after he bombed it, I went ahead and moved back. I didn't move Merlin in because I was just afraid of him getting lost in all that hoard. And he loved Merlin. So that encouraged him to let me declutter somewhat. There were some places that were off limits, but so I got the bathroom done, got most of the bedroom done. Everything I had stacked in one side so that I could sleep with him. I could sleep in the bed. And I got the hallway cleared. Then I worked on the living room. That took me a couple of weeks. It really did. And I don't have pictures of the hoard. I was ashamed of it. I told my friends, my closest friends, but I didn't take pictures. It was super embarrassing. So the living room was done. Then I started working in the dining room. So I cleared the table. He had a table. All his chairs were broken. I moved my couch into the living room because his couch was destroyed. So in the dining room, I cleared the table, but most of the chairs were destroyed. And I had everything stacked on one wall, okay? But then it was time to rent a dumpster. We just had to. I think it cost us $600. But we rented a dumpster because the kitchen, there was no way we could do that 1 week at a time. Now, so you're probably wondering how I ate. Well, I was staying at my ex-husband's. Then when I moved back in with him, I was mostly going to the convenience store deli and just grabbing a sandwich every day. That's all I could do. I mean, I couldn't keep food there. But I finally brought Merlin once I cleared the living room, dining room, the hallway, the stairs, the bedroom. But the kitchen. I need to get to the kitchen. And that is a horrible story. Because his garbage can was buried in the basement, he was just throwing his garbage into the kitchen. He put a baby gate to keep the dogs out of it. Now, he had 3 dogs. By the time I moved in, he only had 1. But it was horrible. So I had to rent a dumpster to start on the kitchen. And it was bad. It looked like at first he was throwing garbage bags in there, and then on top of that, he just started throwing the trash loose. It was about counter height, the whole room. It was a pretty decent sized kitchen, but it was about counter height. And as I dug lower, so the garbage bags had been there so long, they had disintegrated. And we had to shovel everything out. And, but I got the kitchen shoveled out. Then I had to start cleaning. So the oven didn't work. The burners worked. So I got the stove cleaned. The disposal didn't work, so I got my kid to come and put a new disposal because you, I really couldn't use it with the disposal not working because things wouldn't drain because I would have to reach in there and get gunk out of there. So we changed the disposal. The dishwasher didn't work, which is fine. I can live without a dishwasher. I can hand wash. Cleaning the kitchen because the kitchen's important. It's very important. You have to have it hygienic. The countertops were ruined. They were Formica, which is fine, but the hoard on it, the cabinets were literally, I couldn't store anything in there. So I had to be very minimalist in the kitchen because the cabinets were falling apart and the lower cabinets barely holding up. So I got some peel and stick stuff to put on the Formica to make it usable, you know. But I got the kitchen fairly clean. I got it clean enough to use. And then the basement, where all the water damage was, and there was a lot of mold down there. There was a ton of mold. We still had the dumpster. We only filled it about half full with the kitchen stuff. And so we started on the basement. And this is when I really saw the hoarding disorder in him. When we started working on the basement, he had trouble letting things go, and everything was ruined down there. It all had to go in the trash. But books especially. He just didn't want to part with them, and books are susceptible to mold and dampness. So I made a deal with him. I said, we'll take a picture of each book, of the title, and if you find you want that book later, we'll just buy a new copy. Now, this was 3 years ago. He's never replaced any of those books, and that slowed us down a lot. But it allowed us to move forward because time is running out on the dumpster. So we cleared the basement. I didn't clean it. I did remediate the mold, but I didn't really clean it. We didn't use it. Now, the mice. Didn't want to trap the mice. He, like I said, he's vegetarian, and he wanted to humanely trap them and release them elsewhere. I mean, okay, release them where? This is a city. You'd have to drive out in the country, otherwise they become someone else's problem. But he did that with a few of them. Luckily, Merlin is a ruthless hunter. Merlin, when I finally brought him home, he caught a ton of mice. But the bug bomb did work. I think I had to do it twice. What part of the problem was he was just leaving the patio door open so the dog could come and go, so we wouldn't have to let the dog out. I'm like, no, repair the doggy door or come and let the dog out, but you can't just leave the door open. So I don't know if you're familiar with the South. We have these flying tree roaches that live outdoors, but they'll come in your house. They do come in this house rarely. I see one every couple months. If you open the door, and then they go back out. They live outside, and there were cockroaches, and there were so many times, but closing the patio door was important. So I think I bombed it twice. I got rid of the bugs, mostly got rid of the mice. I was still seeing a couple toward the end, but, people get mice. People get mice. Now, the one room I didn't do was the room his son had grown up in. That room was hoarded to the roof. Seriously. I mostly cleared another room to use as an office, to put my computer and stuff in. But his son's room I didn't touch. It was hoarded through the roof, and I still want the fight. He let me do that much, and I have to give him credit for that. He did let me do that much. But once the hoard was cleared away, the damage to the house was incredible. There was so much damage, even to the foundation of the house. We would have had to spend $50,000 or $60,000 repairing the house, and that's not just for cosmetics. I'm talking about to make it safe to live in. So we bought this house and moved into it. Does he hoard here? Yeah, but only his bedroom and a second bedroom. This is a 3-bedroom house. I have my own bedroom, and we only have 1 bathroom. He does not, so none of the public spaces does he hoard. He hoards in his room, and he hoards that extra room, and I don't tell him anything about it. If the smell gets bad enough, if it comes down the hall where I can smell it, I make him open his window, turn on the ceiling fan, clear enough space for me to mop and wash his sheets. And that usually mitigates smell. I only complain about the smell maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But that's it. I know y'all know him as the cheating husband. He spent Thanksgiving with his baby, which is fine as long as I don't have to deal with it. I'm going to give you an update on that now. She reached out to me on YouTube. I've got her blocked on all my social media and on the phone. And she found me on YouTube, and she left a message or a comment, and I just blocked her from YouTube so that I don't have to deal with her. But I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to stay with him or not. I still haven't come to that decision yet. I'm still working on that. So that's the update on the cheating husband. But I want to tell y'all about the hoarding situation because I told you I would be transparent with you. And I'm dealing with that. And there may be other people dealing with that. You know, I would like him to get help, but he doesn't feel like he needs it. You know, because I keep it clean. If I stop cleaning, if I move out, I know what's going to happen. The house is going to get hoarded. I know what's going to happen. The house is going to get hoarded again. Or for the first time, this house. So, yeah, that's it. So if you're living with a hoarder, or if you're living with hoarding yourself, if you're living with hoarding, please get help. It does affect the people you love. And if you love someone who's a hoarder and it's affecting your life, you have to be firm. I mean, I was firm. I wasn't going to live like that, you know? And I didn't mind doing the work. I just felt like it had to be done. But anyway, that's all I have for you. I want to hear, I never asked you to subscribe this whole video, so I'm asking you to subscribe now. Leave a comment telling me if hoarding's affected your life and how it's affected your life. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye.